SDD, as I like to say, same stuff, different day. But I don't mean that in a negative sense, I mean that in a very positive sense. I'd like to weave a little verbal story for you here, a patchwork quilt, if you will, and I want to talk about four things. One is the country and the society that we lived in the time that I was here. Two is the corporation called General Motors. Three was the school called General Motors Institute, and four was Pi Kappa Alpha. I'm going to give you a little sketch on all of that. First, I'll start with the country and the society. When I came up here in the early 60s, the country was doing well, the economy was solid. The president was a guy named John F. Kennedy. He had a beautiful wife and was a clothes horse, and everybody loved that couple across the globe. They were fantastic. John Kennedy was a president that had the country's best interests at heart. My favorite quote from him was something like this, and I'll try to do this in the out east accent. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And he really believed that. Well, unfortunately, in my time here, he got shot. I remember being in the basement of the old house playing pool, and the news came over the TV that our president had been shot. And it was like crushing. Nobody could deal with it. It was just awful because we had no experience with anything like that in the days that we were around. So that happened, and in his stead came a guy named Lyndon B. Johnson out of Texas. He was the vice president at the time, and he took over. Lyndon Johnson had a whole different outlook on things. This was the Great Society. It was banned discrimination. We had federal legislation that came out in his reign that banned discrimination in housing and every way you can name it. So that was the beginning of the transition of the country to a more open-minded society. Bear in mind that before that happened, discrimination was rampant, and it was obvious, and it was present. I mean, it was just a way of life. So that change happened, and at the same time there was a musical group called the Beatles. You probably remember them. We had Elvis Presley as our local guy, but the Beatles came in from England, and they hit the country like a storm. And because of that, I think our eyes got opened a little bit to a more global perspective. Prior to that, we all kind of thought about our country, and we didn't worry about anybody else so much. Gasoline at the time was like 20 cents a gallon. Both red cost you somewhere around 10 to 15 cents. And that's the world we live in, a much simpler world, I might add. So that was the society. Now let's talk about General Motors. General Motors at the time, we had Ford, GM, and Chrysler. There was almost no international competition at the time. And in fact, our fight song in those days, our General Motors song went something like this. High above the old Flint River, factory whistles toot. Stands an ivy-covered outhouse, General Motors Institute. How we love her, she's our mother. Raise your glasses high. Now here's the key line. To hell with Ford and Chrysler products, God bless GMI. That's how we thought in those days. At the time, General Motors owned 60% of the domestic auto market. That's 60%. Today it's like 20 plus or minus a little bit. 17. That gives you That'll give you some feel as to how powerful GM was. There was a General Motors chairman at the time called, a little before my time, called Charles Wilson, and he once said, what's good for General Motors is good for the country. And economically speaking, he was right, and he still is to a degree. Because when you think of what the auto industry spawns in terms of suppliers and dealers and repair shops and all that. So anyway, General Motors was fat, dumb, and happy. It was full of executives that had come out of this school, and those executives would go to cocktail parties and they would be talking with somebody and they'd say, where did you go to school? And the guy would say, the University of Massachusetts Law School. No, where did you go to school? General Motors Institute. What the hell is that, you know? And so people would have that sort of a moniker over their head that they weren't really proud to say they were from General Motors Institute. It just didn't sound like Rensselaer or VMI or University of Florida. It was weird. And I personally, this is probably just my own opinion, but I think a lot of those executives decided they wanted General Motors Institute to be more than what it was, partly because of that. General Motors had a lot of money. There was a president named Ed Cole, who was a fantastic guy, and he decided that he was going to take General Motors Institute to something bigger than it was. So he hired a guy by the name of Harold P. Rhodes to be the president of the school, Dr. Harold P. Rhodes, in my head. And Dr. Rhodes had a few challenges and charges, and where I sat as a student, I didn't have any idea what all he was doing, but I do know one thing. He integrated the school, and he nationally accredited the school. Let's talk about the integration aspect of it. I think the year was 61. I came in 60. White males, period. That's all there was in this school, white males. In 61, Dr. Harold P. Rhodes brought in the first black student. His name was Chris, and he was from Ohio. And he could almost walk on water. Academically, you couldn't compete with him. On the basketball court, he made everybody else look sick. I think that was, you know, you could say he was a token, and maybe he was, but he was a very powerful token. And he began the pioneering of the, let's say, the integration of the school from the black-white perspective. After my time came the advent of women. We didn't even dream about it. I mean, we dreamed about it. We never. We had a little chance in those days. If you wanted to find a date, you had to go to the Hurley School of Nursing or the St. Joe's School of Nursing or the local beauty parlor or the drugstore. Take your chances. So, General Motors Institute became integrated and nationalized, or accredited nationally. Now, what did that spawn? Let's go to the Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity. At the time that I came, there were maybe 11 local fraternities with one chapter on this campus, period, end. And as soon as the school got nationally accredited, we began to think, you know, how cool it would be if you could go to U of M and stay overnight in the frat house. Or you could go to Ohio State and stay in the frat house. You could go to Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, and all those places had Pike chapters. And we thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And not only that, is it nice for us to think of what a recruiting tool it is to be able to say to incoming freshmen, we got campuses all over the country. So it became important to us to nationalize the fraternity. And yours truly got named the National Affiliation Chairman. And it was my job to find a committee of guys from the house and go find ourselves a national fraternity. And at the time, all the locals were pretty much doing it, and we wound up with Pi Kappa Alpha. Our name at the time was Phi Kappa Epsilon. We had not one but two houses on the east side of Flint. If you go to Saginaw and Cork Street, that's roughly the neighborhood. 715 East Street was our main house. It was a 1940s vintage brick house that had a big long square addition, a rectangular addition in the back that was dormed. We had 40 or 50 beds in there. And that was our main house. And then we bought the house, if this is East Street, here's Pearson. Here we were, we bought the house on Pearson, so we had an annex for our seniors, and we made a common parking lot between the two of them. And that was our house. It was pretty cool, and it worked well. But then along came the winds of change, and they were blowing pretty hard in the early 60s. Somebody started talking about this highway called I-75. Wow, what happened to this? Not what happened. There's I-475 too. And holy shit, it's going to go right through our house. Literally how it came down. So not only did we have to nationally affiliate, but we decided we better get our butts in gear and find a way to save this house, because we were going to lose what we had, we thought. At the time, there was, Steve will attest to this, there was a lot of talk about where exactly will 475 be? Will it be here? Will it be 3 blocks over here? Will it be over here or what? But we knew it was in our neighborhood. So we formed another team of guys, and they came out shopping, and they bought a piece of property at Linden and Beecher Road called what you are today. And we bought 18 acres at the time. And good foresight, because we knew that our houses over there could be in trouble, and we also found that this was a farmland, that this was the way the city was trending. So in retrospect, I think it was a pretty good move for us to pull that off. So that gives you a feel for how the society was trending, how the school, and I've got to get back to the school a little bit here, how the fraternity was trending. Now let's talk about General Motors. The idea of making this school national was probably the best thing that could happen to it, because it took a local tech school with the name of General Motors Institute to a better tech school called GMI EMI, or General Motors Institute of Engineering and Many Technology, or however that went. It became Kettering University. Now it's a university. It's a different world. It's integrated. It's got men. It's got women. It's got people from all walks of life, and it's a much more broad-minded world that you're living in today. And from my perspective, 50 years later, I couldn't be more proud of you guys and what you're doing, and how the school has trended, and what it is doing. I'm not so proud about General Motors. General Motors started imploded, and I was a witness to that. I was working within it. And I could go all night talking about that, but I'm not going to do that today. But that's sort of, in summary, then the society was changing, the school was becoming nationally accredited and integrated. The fraternity had to go, we decided we had to go national, and the property committee bought us a new piece of land. And that was circa 1960 to 1965. That's how it all began. I happened to be in the driver's seat because I was the national affiliation chairman, and then I swept into chapter president and became the guy that signed the dotted line for what it is today. And I love you all. Thank you very much. Yes.